Hello, and welcome to today's episode of Not Defined by Endo with me, Teniola. I have been on a mission to find and amplify the voices of amazing people who have founded health-focused businesses, services, or not-for-profit organizations. These people are working really hard to make a positive difference in the lives of people battling different kinds of health issues, or those just wanting to make better decisions regarding their health. Why am I doing this? Well, I'll tell you why. Living with illness is so difficult. Most times, it consumes and overwhelms us. It takes over our lives until we feel like there is nothing left to enjoy. So I decided that this season of the podcast would focus on people doing something good for health. Many of these founders discovered strength from their own personal lives and stories and are making such a great impact. I wanted to speak to them, understand their motivations, and get excited by what they have to offer. So join me on this journey and let's meet these inspirational people together. And so for our very first episode in this season, I'm speaking to Anna from an amazing company called UpCircle. UpCircle is a natural, sustainable skincare company founded by Anna and her brother Will, which repurposes would-be waste ingredients to create award-winning skincare and beauty products. Anyone that knows me knows how important sustainable living is to me. So you can imagine my excitement when I discovered how UpCircle is making use of leftover coffee grounds, aromatic chai spices, and even fruit stone waste to make good for you and good for the environment skincare products. Join me today as we understand more of Anna's story and get inspired by what she's doing. Hello and welcome, Anna, to Not Defined by Endo Podcast today. I'm so glad to have you on the show today.
Hi, thank you so much for having me.
I know it's a Sunday morning and it's quite early, so I hope we'll be awake this morning as we have this conversation. But I think we're going to have a lot of fun talking about who you are and what you do and what UpCircle is all about. So let's begin.
Looking forward to it.
Okay, so I'm going to start with a personal question. Before we start talking about what you do, I want us to talk about who Anna is. So, I'm interested to know what your childhood was like, how, you became who you are today.
Oh, what a big question. I feel like I had a brilliant childhood. I am one of 3 children, so I've got a big brother who I just happen to manage my business with, and then a younger sister who I live with. So we're all very close in different ways. And then my parents, who obviously brought us up, are amazing as well. So they were both teachers. And one of the best things about that in terms of my childhood is that some of my best memories are of our holidays, because with teachers, obviously they get the same holidays as kids. So particularly every summer, it was my mum in particular would put this huge effort towards taking us on some sort of crazy adventure, and not to, a lot of the places that I would see my friends going. We would really kind of backpack it throughout our whole lives to amazing places, the Philippines, Sri Lanka, India, all over Asia, particularly. But not staying in nice hotels. We were on public transport and really getting authentic experiences, 15-hour train journeys and things like that. So that's one element of my childhood that I absolutely loved. I think we've all got a pretty good sort of work ethic. We're all quite driven individuals. But I feel like, there's a bit of pressure in that, I guess, which is why I think eventually, not eventually, I was still quite young when I started my own business. But I'd always felt a little bit of pressure, probably more from my school than my parents, to go down quite a traditional career route and to make sure I was making money and that I was secure and that, I could afford rent. I live in London. So that's always a scary thing. So that was challenging, because unlike my brother, for example, I am much more of a creative person, and I feel like that's a challenge when it comes to choosing what you want to do. So, I wanted to be a makeup artist at one point, and can I do I love textiles and sewing. I was like, maybe I can, go down the fine art route. But never actually really had the guts to pursue any of those things properly. So like at uni, for example, I chose to do history of art, and that was very carefully decided because I was like, it's still academic, so it's fine.
Yeah.
But no, in terms of my actual personality and my character, I'm a lot more creative, kind of free-spirited, I suppose. But in short, my childhood was great. I feel very lucky to be so close with my family, and to be a person who, I'm super social as well. So I've always had lots of close friends, and I absolutely cherish my time with them as well. So a good childhood overall, I would say.
That's good. That's good to know. What you were saying about, feeling like you have to go the traditional route, that's so true. And even in my culture, because I'm Nigerian, and in our culture, everyone says your parents expect you to either be a doctor, lawyer, engineer, or accountant. So if you're not one of those, then you're like, oh God, what am I going to do with my life? But I feel like this is changing a lot now. There's loads of creatives, thanks to IT, funny enough, the technological tools that we have. There are loads of people who can just do their own thing now, and are actually creatives and are doing really well. So I think we're slowly letting go of that idea or that way of thinking that you have to do those traditional things. But yeah, that sounds like an amazing childhood. I would love to travel the world. And actually, I think that's more sustainable when you travel and you're not going into 5-star hotels and things like that, because you can afford, most people can afford it. But if you do it the way your parents did it, then that would be so good.
It's never really made sense to me why people would bother traveling to different countries and then just being in like an all-inclusive where you then just eat English or American food, and yet you're in this, completely new culture. It just made no sense to me. So I think that that's something that has built into my personality now because of my childhood. Like this, just drive for much more authentic experiences, I suppose.
Yeah.
And then when it comes to the career-based stuff, I guess now that I'm a female founder and the business is it's going pretty well, I've got this personal like mission, I suppose, to try to make sure that young girls in particular don't feel that same pressure to only go for certain careers. So I go, like, for example, I went back to my secondary school, and I've done sixth form lectures and careers days, and even in primary schools, just to be like, hey, look, I was you and I get it. And yes, doctor, great. I mean, don't get me wrong. These are obviously amazing career options. But if you're someone who doesn't naturally have that, like I am useless at maths, absolutely useless. But words, like numbers don't compute in my head at all. But words are like, I've never needed to learn how to spell, for example. It just all makes sense to me.
Right.
And so, similarly, someone who's incredible at painting might just be like, I have no idea what to do here. So I think that there's value in having someone like me being like, look, you'll figure it out. And you might have to do a few years here and a few years there and do some internships and, maybe try fashion or do this. But I think I would have appreciated having someone go into my school, and rather than it just being the classic, engineering, doctor, maths, I would have appreciated someone from a more creative industry coming back into my school and saying, there's loads of careers in this as well.
Yeah, you can be whatever you want to be.
Yeah.
So true. Okay, so let's talk about how you came into the world of sustainability, if that's the word I will use. Because my own personal experience, I think I was saying before that I usually I don't even know what my motivation or how I started, but I just know that I really loved making my own creams, trying to find a natural. So if I had a headache, for example, I'll try to Google what natural ways to cure a headache or something. If you check my Google history, you'll see natural ways to blah, 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 loads of them, because I just wanted to see if there were ways that were not chemical laden, if that makes sense, to do whatever I needed to do. And then I was diagnosed with endometriosis and, doing a lot of research and understanding a bit more about the disease, understanding that it's an estrogen dependent condition, if that makes sense. So the condition really relies on estrogen. Sometimes it even creates its own estrogen, which is a problem because we have loads of chemicals in our daily lives, and some of them are actually estrogen mimickers as well, which means that they even increase the load. And you then have to find ways to now get rid of that from your body and reduce your symptoms and things like that. So I think that even pushed me even more into, finding ways to reduce chemical, but also somehow, I don't know if they go hand in hand, but also wanting to be sustainable, wanting to reduce waste and things like that. So I find myself kind of in this world of trying to just improve my life and improve the world as well. So what's your story like, and how did you get into this world?
I think it's definitely been a gradual process. And that's often my advice when it comes to people making transitions, is that it takes time. For our specific business, so UpCircle is a skincare brand, and we make all of our products from upcycled ingredients. So every single formulation is made from an otherwise would be waste ingredient. And it kind of goes back to what I was saying before about where I was at in my life. So it was 5 years ago that I launched, and I launched it with my brother. He was in banking, classic, and I was working as a retail area manager in one of the big supermarkets in the UK. So at my age, I think I was 23 then. I was doing pretty well, but it was one of those things where I would come home at the end of the day and I was physically and mentally exhausted. And I was just thinking, like, why am I doing this? Is this the rest of my life? Is this really what I want? And my brother felt exactly the same way. Yes, I could feel empowered in the fact that, I was arguably, I don't know, like well respected or whatever, but I was still working in a discount supermarket retailer, and that didn't fulfill me. That didn't make me feel like I was, leaving a positive mark on the world. So both of us were kind of keen to switch and to go it alone and to do something that was truly our own, and that we could have that complete autonomy over the decision making, and it could happen quickly and we could feel like we were actually having an input, but B, something that was would leave a positive imprint on the planet, I suppose. And then we had this idea. My brother walked into the coffee shop that he always would get his morning coffee from and just asked them what they do with their coffee grounds at the end of the day. And then they told him that they produce so much, and this was just a small independent, not a big chain, but they produce so much coffee waste per day that they have to pay the local council to have it disposed of at landfill sites. So all of a sudden he was like, oh, okay, that's crazy. Like, I didn't know that. Coffee is so popular. It's never going to it's not going to get less popular in our lifetimes. And it's this big negative environmental problem that people don't realize, because when it gets to landfill, it rots and then it produces methane, which is a greenhouse gas. So we had like the problem, when people start a business, they often talk about the problem and the solution. So the problem that we had kind of identified was this crazy amount of coffee waste just being sent to landfill every day. And then I guess I came in, given that I had wanted to be a makeup artist for years and had this keen interest in skincare and natural ingredients. I knew how fantastic coffee is for your skin. So I said, well, why don't we just start making little exfoliators out of it? And we booked a little stand at the London Coffee Festival to test both the concepts and the actual products. And we absolutely, they flew out the door. People loved them. So that was kind of the point at which everything changed, and we decided to launch the business. And then I suppose my personal journey through sustainability I've always been on one, but yes, it's definitely accelerated in the last 5 years through having my work life be so engrossed in that world as well. I've always been someone who cares. Practically vegan. I mean, I try not to label things with too harsh a terms, because if I went over to someone's house and their mum had cooked for me or whatever, then I would eat what was on the plate, kind of thing. But I'm very conscious of my purchasing decisions and the way I live my life, and kind of minimizing the impact I have with everything. So yeah, it's definitely got more in the last 5 years, since my work life has also replicated that. And I've finally been able to bring my personal values and my work values into one. But yeah, it's something that changes all the time. And people ask me all the time recommendations for things. And I'm like, oh, I'm not perfect. Like a lot of my makeup still isn't the most ethical stuff in the world. Like my fake tan, for example, I'm not willing to compromise yet until I find the right thing.
Yeah.
And, you know, switching period products, or there's so many categories where you can make improvements. And I think you just have to take it slowly and wait until you find the right thing, because it has to work first and foremost.
Yeah. I remember someone saying, I think I saw it maybe on a social media post or something, that it's not about, you know, a few people doing zero waste and sustainability perfectly, but like everyone doing it imperfectly, that would make more of an impact. So yeah, you're right. It just,
Yeah.
you have to just do it little by little, one step at a time, one product at a time, and see how it goes.
I completely I believe that so strongly, and I tried to make that the point in the messaging on our channel as well. I think it's just like we just had Veganuary, for example, and I think that with all like, you know, there's Plastic Free July, or all of these sort of marketing events, which are really well intentioned and they are positive, of course. But what happens is that you get loads of people trying to change overnight cold turkey. And yes, that does work for some people, sure. But then for a lot of people, it doesn't. So I just like to emphasize that it's absolutely okay to not be this complete green warrior who ticks every single box. Everyone's priorities will be different. So if for you, animal testing is the most important thing, but you don't care necessarily whether the ingredients are vegan, then cool, you focus on that. That's better than trying to have products that are absolutely everything and then not having everything that you need, I suppose.
Yeah. And I feel like now that a lot of people are more aware, it's like, I don't know if to call it a movement, but it's like people are more aware. So as we're raising awareness, a lot more people are joining, you know, this journey of sustainability, which is great. So let's talk a bit more about UpCircle. You mentioned using coffee grinds. So is it the waste product of the coffee? So when they've made coffee, the rest of the chaff, is that what we'll call it, that's what you use? Or can you tell me a bit more about how that works and how you convert that into exfoliators? You don't have to give me your business secret.
I'll give you every percentage of every oil. To be fair, we do share DIY recipes of a lot of our products on our blog. I would try to keep it as transparent as possible. Don't get me wrong, there's also lots and lots of brands trying to find out how we've done it at scale, because that's the one thing that no one else has managed to do. So we're collecting hundreds of kilograms a day from cafes and restaurants all over the city, and we're the only brand who've managed to scale it up and sell it on a global scale. But I
had a question. I was going to say, I think actually, maybe I should let you answer, then I'll ask.
Okay, save it and we'll come back to it.
Yeah.
So the way it works with the coffee is, if you think about it, well, if you're buying a coffee in a coffee shop, they often have that kind of cylindrical puck thing that they click underneath the machine and then they tap it out. And what we're taking is the stuff that they tap out. So they're most frequently called coffee grounds. Similarly, if you're making a coffee at home with a cafetiere or something like that, and you put the coffee in, and then what is left underneath the French press is what we are using. So it's the physical sort of texture of that coffee which makes it a really fantastic natural exfoliant. It's very gentle, and obviously it's natural. It will biodegrade when it goes down the drain, so no plastic microbeads. It's not scratchy, it's very soft, slightly more powdery, so it won't cause micro tears or anything like that. It's suitable for sensitive skin. And then one of the key turning points in our research, which made me realize that this was an absolute no-brainer, was when we found out that the level of antioxidants actually increases through the brewing process. It doesn't lose any of its skincare benefits through the fact that it's kind of used as such. It arguably gets even better for your skin. So at that point we were like, wow, well, we should like, there is no reason not to do this. And then people of course love the story as well. So then we kind of launched with those products. We have scrubs for the body and then also scrubs for the face. The ones for the face are softer, and then we use specific oil blends to suit different facial skin types, because people's facial skin is generally more sensitive or has different specific requirements. Someone with very dry or dehydrated skin is going to need different oils than someone who has acne prone or spot prone skin, for example. So we tailor them to the different specific skin types. But then the functionality, the core base ingredients are the same. So all of them are blended with shea butter and coconut oil. And all of this was based on me buying loads and loads of exfoliators on the market and seeing what most people didn't like about them. And I think it's the same with soap bars. Often people use these products and yes, your skin will be smooth and soft, but then it will also feel like you've had a facelift and it's really tight. And that's not pleasant. So we blend them with these really nourishing, moisturizing ingredients so that you're getting both the exfoliation and then also moisturization at the same time. And then that was where we kind of built out the concept from and designed the entire brand around that idea. So even the brand name, for example, UpCircle, it alludes to upcycling, it alludes to the circular economy and the uplifting benefits of our products for both your skin and your general mental well-being.
That's amazing. Do you have other products? So I know you've mentioned these scrubs and exfoliators. Are there other skincare products like creams and face washes or whatever that you also sell?
Yes. So we've now broadened out and we repurposed 10 different byproducts into our range. And we've got loads and loads of different skincare products, but then also loads of plastic-free accessories that you use as well. So I was shocked when I was reading about how efficient we are in the UK and the US, actually, the same statistics there, of recycling out of our kitchens now, but people are still not great at recycling out of their bathrooms. So I wanted to make sure that I was also offering the products that you would often use with our skincare products. So we do things like metal tube rolling keys, which help you squeeze every little bit out. You can use those on toothpastes and things like that. Chrome metal safety razors that are a much better alternative than disposable razors, cotton buds, things like that. And then going back to the core range, we moved on from the coffee to start working with brewed chai tea spices. So, beautiful aromatic blend of chai spices that we dry out and infuse through our range of palm oil free soaps. And then we started extracting oils. So our best-selling face serum is made from the oil that we extracted from the coffee grounds. We do a toner, which is made with residual fruit water that's left over from the juicing industry.
Wow.
Our eye cream is made with maple bark extract, which is a byproduct of the wood industry. And then we've got a nourishing face range, so a face mask made of powdered olive stones. We've got a moisturizer made with argan shells, so the outer kind of case of the argan fruit. So yes, a huge variety of products that we've been working on, every single one of them with a different byproduct ingredient.
Wow, 5 years, you've done so much. I feel like you've done so much already in 5 years. And I think the fact that you can actually come up with thinking about what you could use, that sounds like so much hard work as well, because it's easy to just pick up, ingredients that, are well known, but going deeper and thinking about what can I use, what can I use with this byproduct and make something really good out of it. I think it needs to be applauded. So,
thank you. I will have to say, sometimes I do think, oh God, we've made our lives so difficult here, because there's no one that we can look to see like, how have they done it kind of thing. We're the first people doing it at the scale that we're doing it. So I'll have an idea. So like recently, for example, one of the premises that we work out of is a railway arch, and all of the other arches are occupied by florists. And so I noticed that they throw away all of their unsold flowers on a Monday. And I'm like, right, I want to start infusing bath products with flower petals that these guys are just throwing away, because they're beautiful. They still look perfectly good to me. But then I'm like, okay, I've had the idea. That's the easy bit. Now it's, how on earth am I going to go about making sure I can get the right amount, drying it, preserving it? All of this stuff is basically us figuring it out for the first time. But yeah, we've got a real kind of problem solving attitude and just dust yourself off and try again.
That's a
Takes
good
a long time.
Yeah. So let's talk about, because this was what I wanted to ask before about scaling. So I saw on your website that your products are obviously handmade, but how do you scale that? Do you do that? Like, do you sell when people order? So, some people are like, some people's products are like made to order and things like that. But how do you scale with your products since they're handmade?
What's quite nice about us is that a lot of the partnerships that we have, so not necessarily the in-house UpCircle team, but there are people who work for UpCircle, like our branding agency or our manufacturers, who are sort of growing with us at the same time. So we've worked with the same manufacturers from day one, and they've had to like buy new buildings and stuff to keep up, because they were quite small time. But obviously they're growing as we're growing. And I think it's so important again, we're based in London. So doing all of the manufacturing in this city, it would be so costly. It would affect the entire product price. So for us at the moment, anyway, until potentially in the future, we might bring it all in-house. It's so important that we get a manufacturing partner who shares our values and who understands what we're doing and why we're doing it. We honestly contacted so many who were just like, no, I'm not going to put
interested.
I'm not going to put your coffee grounds in, because little things happen, like, maybe a whole bean might slip through or something, which if you're using massive machinery could cause problems. But we don't make to order, but I would describe it as small batch. So we've got the different locations that we're working with, and the different we've got America, and then we've got the place in London, and all of these other places that needed to be topped up all the time. But we're not sitting on huge volumes of stock. We keep it quite low level, which again is inevitable for a young brand, because you don't have infinite money.
Yeah.
So it's really hard sometimes, because we are making maybe 500 units of one of the products at a time, and that it will take you a matter of days to sell out of that. So you're always kind of on this treading water sort of balance, but that is just the reality of it until we have loads of money, which doesn't happen at the beginning for businesses.
Yeah.
But no, it's handmade. We may introduce some elements of machinery in the future for the really manual bits. So for example, particularly when you're working with thick butters and creams, like physically mixing that in huge batches is exhausting. But I would describe it as small batch, with some light machinery, just to alleviate the manual labor.
Okay. And what would you say is the hardest part of everything you're doing with UpCircle?
Oh God, another massive question. I would say one thing that I find a bit frustrating sometimes is that, because we are the first people to do this, for example, getting certification for our products is really, really difficult. So we are a Soil Association and Cosmos certified brand generally, and we are very mutually supportive, as are our manufacturers. But a lot of our products can't be certified as organic because of the fact that they're using recycled ingredients. And things like that are really annoying, because for consumers, often, rather than them having to do loads of research and homework on every single brand on a shelf, it's much easier to shop just by certification. So once, if the thing that you care about is organic, and then just to look for that logo, then you're going to assume that our products aren't organic when they actually are. We just can't put the stamp on it because of our whole circular economy ethos. So little things like that I find very frustrating, because we're actually better than anyone else, and yet we're being penalized, because the kind of industry hasn't even caught up with what we're doing yet. And I think that it will slowly, but at the moment that's a bit annoying. And then more recently, I suppose this last 9 months, or coming up on a year now, has been really difficult for building our team. I'm, definitely a people person, and I want people working for us to be happy and included, and for it to feel like a real team effort. And it's been so difficult, growing a brand when everyone's working out of their bedrooms.
Okay, that's understandable. So your UpCircle has hit 5 years, your 5-year anniversary. Woohoo! They always say if you can get to 5 years, then most likely you're on your trajectory up.
I hope so. I hope so.
What are your future plans for UpCircle?
I think there's kind of two elements of that really. One is growing the range, and then the other is growing the team. So at the moment, we are kind of struggling with keeping up with demand when we don't have enough people. So in January, we offered 5 new positions, and at the moment we're hiring into a further 3, which is crazy because at the start of in February last year, we were a team of 3, and then already within a year, we have, like times that by 5 at least. So that's kind of terrifying, but really exciting. So getting new people in to grow the brand, and then the other side of it is growing the product range as well. So this year alone, I think we've got 8 planned products that we're trying to put out: an SPF, a night cream, hand wash and hand lotion duo that we can hopefully roll out into the hospitality industry as it begins to open up. Looking at hand sanitizer as well, for obvious reasons. So that will hopefully open up a whole new industry of potential stockists, hotels, restaurants, bars. And what's nice is that because we're collecting out of lots of these places for things like the coffee, it ties really nicely to then also have our products in their bathrooms. So that's kind of the plan really. We've got a big focus this year on America, which is terrifying. We're launching in some big retailers out there, and it's scary business because it's all huge volumes. Like Whole Foods here, I think there are like 8 or 9 stores, whereas Whole Foods in America, there's hundreds.
God.
So yeah, we're working on all of that, but it's very, very busy and exciting.
That's exciting. That's good. So I'm going to ask my final question, and this is more thank you so much, first of all, for everything. I've had a good time talking about UpCircle and what you guys do, and now I'm interested in trying some of the products.
Good.
I want to talk about the final question is just, what are your tips? So like I said, our audience includes women who are going through a lot. They have endometriosis or whatever other chronic illnesses, and they're probably just trying to improve their health however they can, improve what they're putting on their body, because we're trying to stay away from as much chemicals as possible. But do you have any tips or advice, or just some words on how they can make that move or make that change, and some kind of words of encouragement to women who are in this position?
Yeah, absolutely. I think the most important thing is to take it slow and for it to be gradual. I think, like I mentioned earlier, what you need to do is figure out what your priorities are with the things that you feel most passionately about, and don't necessarily try to achieve everything at once. So if, for example, you want a more sustainable makeup routine, or better hair care products, or whatever it might be, you need to look at all of the kind of tick boxes that might be there. Is it vegan? Is it about packaging? Are you trying to get rid of plastic in your bathroom? Or is it that it's suitable for very, very sensitive skin, or has no chemicals, or whatever it might be? Identify those things and then just focus on that. Don't try to be perfect. Don't do that classic thing that lots of people do when they're like, right, I'm going to go for it, and they just empty all of their cupboards and buy everything new, because that's exactly the opposite of what you want to do, really, if you're trying to be more sustainable. And don't kind of knock yourself if something that you have isn't the best. As I was saying at the beginning, there's lots of things that I still have in my routine that aren't necessarily the most ethical products in the world, but that's okay. When I find the right one, then I'll switch it, and that's good. So don't be discouraged. Don't strive for perfection. Just do your bit to make little improvements every day, and that's the best you can do.
Oh, that's amazing advice. Thank you so much, Anna. It's been fun having you here today. And to everyone listening, if you want to find Anna's products, you can go to www.upcirclebeauty.com. There are loads of amazing products on there that you can try and give it a go. So thank you so much, Anna. It's been fun today.
Such a nice way to start a Sunday morning, actually. We were thinking maybe it's a bit early, but actually this has been really nice.
This is good. This feels productive. So I feel like I've achieved something good today. So I can
We're off to a good day.
I can be a bomb the rest of the day. But yeah, thank you so much. I had a good time. I hope you did too.
Absolutely. Yeah, loved it. Thank you so much.
Amazing. I hope you enjoyed getting to know Anna as much as I did. If you want to know more or try out their products, please go to www.upcirclebeauty.com. There are so many awesome products on there, you'll be spoiled for choice. If you enjoyed this episode, I would love to know. Join me on Instagram and Facebook. You can also join our community on Health Unlocked and ask any questions or share your stories. All of the links will be available in the show notes. Don't forget to share, rate, and subscribe to this podcast. If you also have any questions to ask or topics you would like me to discuss, feel free to shoot me an email on info@notdefinedbyendo.com. I love to hear from you all. Till next time, remember, you are not defined by endo.